Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another episode of the Afro Gamer podcast. Today, I have a special guest with us, and we'll be talking about Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. It's coming up November, and I would allow the man behind the scenes to tell us more and educate us more about this. Viewers and listeners, welcome Kevin. He is the CEO of Big Five Games. Hello, Kevin.
Iffy, thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you today.
All right, thank you very much. Let's jump straight into it. What is Big Five Games? I think the viewers and listeners would want to know more about you before we, go to the topic of the day.
Sure. So Big Five Games is a mobile games and esports company. We are based out of Johannesburg, South Africa, operating across the continent. And we offer two areas of expertise. One is within mobile games, and it's not video games. It's fantasy league, fantasy football, score prediction, and trivia quiz games. We have a platform that offers a number of these games out to corporate partners that we work with, corporate sponsors, and we help drive fan engagement for them for a number of industries. We do this across sports, we do it across entertainment, finance, and we also started getting excited and involved in the esports space by building out esports prediction games so that fans could learn about esports events, learn about the teams and players, and be able to back those teams and players in fun, free-to-play games. That piqued our interest in the overall video games and esports space. And we started exploring that in more detail and getting much more active in the industry. And as such, we have a number of community initiatives that are aimed at building a sustainable gaming and esports offering across the continent. And we play a number of different roles in that space. The one, of course, is in education, and that's what our Africa and Games and Esports Careers Day is about. And secondly, we also are an agency of sorts to a number of big brands here, and we help and guide them around activations and entry into the games and esports market. And we do that with what are called the non-endemic brands in esports. It's not the technology brands or the telcos per se. It's really about fast-moving consumer goods and other brands out there that have built sports and music and the entertainment industries. And we're trying to educate and excite them around the opportunity of gaming and esports on the continent and drive some of their investment into the space. So there are two areas of our business that we have, is the mobile game side, and then, of course, the video games and esports side.
All right, thank you very much for that, Kevin. Gaming itself, it's not new to the continent Africa, but esports is, even globally, they say it's new, and I guess in Africa it's newer. I think now the question is, how did you personally, as an individual, get into gaming and esports?
Yeah. So I always relate the story that we were very fortunate. We grew up in Zimbabwe, and at an early age, our parents managed to get us an Atari. And as such, video games were introduced into our life at a very early age in a literally disconnected part of the world at the stage that I was growing up. And from there, that just blossomed into a passion for games and technology. And we then moved on to, when I say we, my brother and I, who is the co-founder of Big Five Games with me and is our CTO. And we moved on to ZX Spectrum, which was also an early coding, programming, gaming type of platform. And we spent quite a bit of time on that. And all of that piqued my interest into technology and games. And for a number of years, my career was actually in enterprise software and B2B business applications. And after having done that for a number of years and founding a company in that space that was acquired, about 5 years ago, I left that organization to pursue a passion I had, which was for games and gaming, and try and develop something within that space. So the story that I relate is how early on in my life, I was able to access gaming and appreciate games and all the education components that came with that. And that's come full circle now, where our passion point is really to help drive education and career opportunities around the games industry in Africa. And to your point, it's not new. Gaming has been around. It's a lot easier now for people to access it, obviously from mobile phones. So I think that for me is the greatest exciting opportunity for the continent, is we've moved beyond lucking out where parents find you a console or get you some device that you can use to game, where it's come down to mobile phones, and it's accessible to everyone now across the continent.
A few of my viewers will call me out because I'm always championing mobile game, because I think, like you said, I think it's easier, is the best penetration for the continent. So for all my guests, I always ask them this question just to make them feel relaxed. In terms of esports in Africa, what's the scorecard? If you're supposed to score it over 10, what would you score it, and what is the reason behind the number?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a difficult question to answer, because I think that the reality is that the development of esports is at different stages across the continent. And of course, when we look at Africa, we can't just look at it as a continent. We need to look at it as all the different countries. Every country is unique. Every country needs its own strategy, has its own way of progressing. So I think it's a little bit different across the different countries. But I'll generalize here, and I'll say that we're at about a 4 or 5. We're halfway to where we should be, and we're only starting to see acceleration now, coming off the COVID pandemic, where gaming has become much more mainstream and focused on over the pandemic period. And I think now we're starting to move into a situation where gaming is now being accepted in a much broader way. And we also have career opportunities being developed within the gaming space that we never saw before. So a couple of years back, it would have been almost impossible to try pursue a professional gaming career as an esports player on the continent. And now there's certainly some opportunities for a small number. And we just hope over time, we can grow the market where there are way more professionals and teams and infrastructure and development around the entire industry, that it really gets the recognition that it deserves. I'll also state that, being here in South Africa, the advantage we have here is it is quite advanced, and the industry, is probably above the 5, but still not much, because we've got a long way to go. But at the same time, the opportunities here might be a little bit different, because of the fact that we're probably more centric towards PC gaming and console gaming than mobile gaming. And so I think what we'll see over time is as the shift to mobile gaming and mobile devices become much more prevalent and respected within the gaming and esports community, we should see other countries really start moving quickly and accelerate past South Africa with where they are in their gaming and esports journey. So some way to go still, but we are coming off a small base, and we are growing quite rapidly off that now.
Okay, wonderful. So do you think what's it called now? Internet connection is one of the challenges for the development of esports in Africa?
Yes, it is currently. I always say access is our biggest obstacle, and access is two-sided. Number one is access to decent connectivity and internet access that allows people to engage with gaming. And the second one on that access side is the cost of data. So it's great if I can have an LTE, a 5G connection, but if the data is unaffordable, then the opportunity is not available to me. And that's a key challenge we have on the continent. And the other side that used to be a bit of a challenge, I guess, was the cost of games and investing and buying games. But that's changed a lot, of course. A number of games now are free. The model is moving towards freemium sort of games. So it's free to get the game. There's premium services and there's investments people can make into the gaming platform that they're playing with. And that's how developers and publishers are potentially going to make their money in the future. So that cost side is not as problematic currently. But certainly, good access to a good internet infrastructure, and secondly, having the cost of data being reasonable, because gaming is and can be a high data experience, and that's something that does need to be accommodated. But I'm hopeful on it that over time that will take care of itself to a certain extent. The cost of data is coming down, and it will get cheaper and cheaper. And there are far more connectivity options going to be available to us in the future. If you look at what Google is doing with their balloons, if you look at what Elon Musk is trying to do with his satellite network, there's many, many other options besides what we know in our various countries of different telecommunications companies connecting us up. There will be other options. And I'm convinced that this barrier over time will be reduced. More people will have access. It'll become cheaper. Games will be freer, and people will be able to explore a lot more within the gaming space than they ever have before.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's jump to the topic of today, Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. Can you tell us more about it? I'm sure our viewers would want to know more about it.
Yeah, this is a big passion point project for us, and for us, it's a community builder. We actually did this last year in 2019 as a physical event. We did it in Johannesburg. It was on a Saturday, and we had about 150 people come out to Vega, which was the college we were working with at the time. At their campus, they were teaching a game design course, so they had a great interest in developing the games industry. And we had a good turnout and a number of great speakers that joined us. But what we realized with the COVID situation, as everything went virtual, is we had a far bigger opportunity now with this event to really make it continent-wide, make it much more accessible to the African continent, and bring different speakers on board that we couldn't have the year before because we were a physical event. And if you weren't in Johannesburg joining us on that day, you weren't able to speak. So previously, we called it Games and Esports Careers Day. And now what we've done is we've termed it Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. So we've extended it dramatically. We've brought in a lot more speakers, such as yourself, Ify, of course, is going to be joining us on the day. It's running as part of the Rage Expo Digital Edition. Now, Rage is one of the largest gaming festivals that takes place in South Africa. It's always taken place in Johannesburg. It's coming up to 18 years that it's been running. And this is the first year. It's got a great pedigree, a great history behind it. And last year, as an example, I attended, had an amazing time. I was working there as well with some of the brands that we work with. 35,000 people turned out over 3 days to engage in Rage. So it's got a huge following. But now, obviously, in going virtual, as they've shifted all their activities to the digital edition, we decided it would be a good opportunity for us to partner with Rage Digital and bring our Africa Games and Esports Careers Day to their program, because they were obviously speaking to a very large gaming community. And I think one of the benefits we've brought them is a truly African property with African participants, and helping to make their event not just a South Africa focused event, but really make it an African focused event. So on the 6th of November, we're starting at 9:30. That's the first day of Rage. Rage runs on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Friday is dedicated to our event, the Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. We're starting at 9:30 in the morning, Central African time, and we're running to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we have a number of panels with leaders in the games and esports space within Africa, within the continent, some people also globally that are joining us. And what we're really just trying to do on the day is unpack the entire ecosystem of the games and esports industry. So I think many people see it as, playing games or making games, but there is a whole broader opportunity behind that. You're a great example of what you've done with the Afro Gamer, how you are covering the games industry and the esports industry, and you are developing a profession for yourself. There's career opportunities. There's a way of growing a business that you've come up with what the Afro Gamer is doing. And that's your panel that you're speaking to, is you're talking about journalism in games and esports and covering the industry and how important that is. There are other areas such as content creation and streaming, which are also very good opportunities for people on the continent, and are new ways that people can define career opportunities for themselves. So it's not just focused on games itself in esports, it's really looking at the entire ecosystem within the gaming space, and how do you unpack that to make sure that everyone's aware of all the opportunities. So even producing events, as a great example, is a skill. It's something that people can learn within the games and esports industry, and they can use that, of course, as a new type of skill set that they have. But typically people wouldn't have seen this as a career opportunity. They would have just maybe seen, as I said, playing games and making games. But there is a whole world that wraps around the games and esports industry. And when you talk about esports, it's not just playing esports, right? It's the trainers, it's the coaches, it's the strategists, there are dietitians, there are physicians, there are teams that support esports players the same way you have teams of individuals that support the best players in the world at Manchester United or Barcelona, and really help, make these athletes the best they can potentially be. These again are career opportunities or areas of the industry that haven't as of yet really been front and center and explored. So that's the intention of the day, bringing together an amazing lineup of speakers that all have, incredible experience, and asking them to share their expertise on their particular area, to very much talk around how they built their own careers and how they develop their opportunity and the role they play within the industry, and asking them to share some advice and guidance. What would they tell the youth of Africa to look at as where are the next big opportunities, And we really want to be absolutely honest with the community that, it's not the easiest thing to make it within the industry. The games industry is one of the largest entertainment industries in the world. It dwarfs the music and movie industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely dwarfs them. But, I always say that, kids across Africa are waking up to be the next big movie star or music star. They're not waking up to be the next big gaming star or esports star. And that's what we need to change. That's the narrative we need to change, and we need to get many, many more of the youth of the continent excited about the gaming kind of space, recognizing that it's way bigger than music or movies. And then there are obviously so many more career opportunities around it. And I also think what's very important to state is that it's global from day one. So if you're a person in Africa as a young person, and obviously we've got the youngest population in the world, and that's growing tremendously, is with a mobile phone, an internet connection, you are connected to the global gaming community. If you're creating content, if you're streaming, if you're playing esports, you're competing against the best around the world, you get this great opportunity to be part of a global market, which you do not get when you start a business or join a company in another industry in country. So if someone joins a company in Nigeria or in Kenya that's very much focused on the local territory, that's all you're doing. You're focused on Nigeria or Kenya. We're not. In the gaming space, we're focused on the continent. We're focused on the whole world, the globe. And as such, the opportunity is far more enormous than many other industries. And that's really the intent of the day. It's to get the youth of the continent excited about the opportunities that are there in the gaming. We also hope to have a number of parents joining us, because the reality is, without parents supporting kids in their passions and helping them grow, we will never really achieve the success that we're looking for, because parents don't see this yet as a viable career opportunity. So we're hoping to help change their mind, share some of the insights, talk around how people can grow a career in gaming as a passion, and then see if it turns into a career in the future. But we're trying to help not just the youth of the continent, but parents start recognizing and appreciating the fact that this is a serious industry, even though it's a lot of fun. And also huge growth opportunities, and people are starting to see and understand that. And also important that parents recognize what healthy gaming is, and help their children grow with a non-addictive side to gaming, but very much an engaged side to gaming, be part of that journey, and support their kids with something that is a real career opportunity.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. I'm really excited about the careers there, and I'm really excited about everything you mentioned, especially when I've noticed that there's a misconception on the continent, whereby once you mention esports, they think you are a player a team player, or you just play games, or you're a tournament organizer. Those are the two misconceptions. Nothing else. So they just, yeah. So I'm really excited about the esports careers today, and I'm hopefully many of the youths will be able to attend, because I've pushed it out and I'm telling communities, hey, it's not just all about inviting your friends to let's just play, but you really need to know what esports is all about. And what I tell people is everything you do in any other industry, in terms of the music or the movie industry, you being a publicist, you being a social media handler, we have all that as a career path in esports. And because most people say I don't play games, you don't need to play games. If all you know how to do is you're on Twitter, you're just tweeting everything. You can tweet for a team, you can tweet for a single player who doesn't even have. You can even tweet for an esports organization, and so I'm really looking forward to it. I want a lot of, so to all our viewers, our listeners, make sure you attend Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. Trust me, it's something that will change your life if you're interested in the industry. I think another question should be, why do you think there's that misconception among the youths? And when you speak to people, especially maybe people in government, and you say, okay, there's this esport thing, we would like you to adopt it. If you go to schools, okay, fine, it's changing. A few schools are getting enlightened, but majority of the schools, when you say esports or you say there's a career, the first thing they would say is, isn't that what kids play when they're done with their homework, or it's a leisure time activity? Right. I think what do you think the misconception is? I think there's a little bit of culture playing a factor, but I would like to hear your opinion about it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That the culture on the continent maybe is not to support something as something that's seen as a fun activity and something trivial, playing games. I think a lot of parents are like, well, my children spend too much time on screens as it is, and now you want me to do that as an extra passion project, and not go out and play football, or not go out and play other sports and spend their time on the screen. So I think there's a lot of that kind of thinking from parents, that screens are problematic for their children and not something they want to see them spending more time on, which is why I spoke about the healthy gaming kind of option. But I think the bigger issue is it's new. And it's very hard for us in Africa to really grab new industries and new opportunities and see about how they're going to change things. It's very difficult to see something that we don't have a lot of experience in, and then to know how to make use of it. So, when you ask me about the rating, and I don't see it as being too high, it's because none of us really know exactly how this is going to play out, or what we're doing. We're all out there testing the market, testing the industry. Yeah, we're learning as we go through, and that's what makes this industry so exciting. It's not something that comes with a handbook of this is how it's been done all around the world, and it's kind of like every opportunity is unique and different, and there's opportunities to build your own successful career path in the industry. So I think because it is so new and there isn't enough information behind it, I think that a lot of people are concerned around it and don't see it as a realistic opportunity. So to your point, just around our day as an example, and I do just want to highlight, and I know you'll bring up as an example our URL, but it was africagamescareers.com. So www.africagamescareers.com is the URL where anyone can go and sign up and grab tickets for that. And what I want to also mention is that the content that we create on the day, we will capture and we will make available after the event for those that didn't get the opportunity to join us. So if we are working with other organizations or schools, we can certainly bring this content in and talk about Careers Day and careers opportunities, and break up the content and still share it and make use of it as well. I also think, just when it comes to esports, something important on esports is almost something where it's quite far thinking compared to gaming. So, you and I spoke a little bit earlier around the work that we're trying to do as Big Five Games. We also partnered with Metal State. We're working with Chesa Gaming in Nigeria, and we're trying to push school esports. But before we can really get to school esports, we should talk about school gaming and gaming clubs and try and get everyone into the gaming world first and foremost before esports. And esports will then follow. And I think this is a key opportunity that we shouldn't drop. We need to get more and more of the continent's youth excited and engaged with gaming. Once that is happening, the best of the best will surface to the top. The ones that are dedicated and grinding it out and want to do great within the games they're playing, they will move into the esports space, and esports will develop around those individuals and around those opportunities. So when it comes to the education side, I'm quite convinced that we should be pushing gaming and the STEM benefits that come with gaming. So to make sure that parents are aware that there are education components, there's teamwork, there's strategy, there's all these other elements that come out of the gaming space that are very important to recognize before you then move on to something such as esports. I actually have a small video clip from an individual called Coach Elaine, who works with the Varsity Esports Foundation in the States, and he's been producing some amazing content. And one of his most impressive pieces of content was literally 10, 15 seconds that he posted. He's been doing a lot of TikTok work and a lot of posts on Twitter. And what he spoke about is, if you're a young person and you go to your parents and you say, I want to get this game, or I want to get into esports because, I saw this guy win $3 million in the Fortnite World Champs and I want to win all this money. He said, your parents are not going to support you, because it sounds like a scam, right? You're arriving there and you're saying, I'm going to make all this money and this kind of stuff, and he said, you don't do that with, traditional sports. You don't go to your parents and say, please buy me a football because I want to become rich and I want to become this celebrity footballer. Like,
exactly.
I want a football because I want to play with my friends and I want to kick it around and I want to have fun. And you're not thinking around where that end kind of opportunity or goal might be. And he was saying that's how we should be approaching parents when we want to pursue our passion for gaming. We want to, tell them that it's something that we want to pursue as a passion point. We want to make sure we're getting good grades and still hitting the numbers that we need to be doing at school. We want to make sure that we're still being healthy and exercising and eating correctly and all those elements. And then, get into the gaming side and see where it goes, and get your parents aware that you're doing it because you have a love for this and they want to support your passion. But don't go to them as, and I'm cautioning that because we're talking about careers. So it's different if someone goes to their parents and says, I want a career because I love this, it's my passion, I know there's opportunities and I believe we can do this. It's very different when they go there and say, I want this career because I want to make a lot of money out of it. And there's a great saying, you pursue your love and your passion you have in life, and the money will normally flow afterwards once you're happy in what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. There's a few comments here. Let me just read them. Stevenson said, "What time, please?" Kevin said, you can go to www.africagamescareers.com and you'll see all the information. The event starts November 6th and it goes all through the weekend. And on the website, you'll see the schedule, you'll see everything you know. Trust me, you're not going to regret attending this. A lot of knowledge for you to gain. Let's move on. We do have Games Camp City news, and I guess he was addressing the misconception. He said that is why education is key in esports on the basics. He also went on to say it's a generation culture, very sensitive. You did mention, you gave an example about going to your parents and saying because you want to make a lot of money. I've heard a lot. That's also another misconception. That is why, the esports career talk is compulsory. Education is key. Many people, when they're having that conversation, they say, Ninja made X amount of millions, so you can make. So that is what a lot of people are selling on the continent. Sadly, you can make money. And it's the same thing they're selling when they're going to the sports ministries in various countries. So the minister is already thinking, okay, so we can make money. And they skip all the whole reorientation, education, the career path. And I try as much as possible to shy away from that when telling people about esports. I compare it to traditional sport. I say the same way you like to watch football or enroll on a Saturday to go and play with your friends is the same thing esports or gaming is becoming.
Right.
Because that's the mindset now, and it has eaten so much into the youth that when you're holding a game tournament, the question they're going to ask you is how much is the cash prize? I don't have anything against cash prizes, but that is always they are not going to ask you what dates, what mode that were we playing, what is the registration. They are not going to ask you that. The next question is what is the cash? What is the cash price? And it's eating so deep. It's in Nigeria, it's in Ghana, it's in Kenya. So it's not just some part of Africa. It has eaten so deep that people are not interested. If you say, okay, let's just have a game party, let's have Nigeria versus South Africa, immediately they're going to start asking you, is there any incentive? Are you doing any giveaway? And I think it's really, really problematic because it's not going to allow the continent move forward if that is already the mindset. And when someone used the example of Ninja for me, I said, if you've done your proper research on Ninja, you know how far back he has been playing before he even became an amateur gamer to a professional gamer to a professional streamer. So you need to put in work. You need to carve out an interest.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it is so deep that if there's no cash prize on the poster or the flyer, they're going to be very, very reluctant to say they're going to be part of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma. We had it in South Africa to some extent, where we had a number of tournaments that had huge cash prizes available in the region of R1 million of prize money being put it for the players, and that in some ways set a high expectation that if you didn't have hundreds of thousands of rands in your tournament, then people didn't want to participate in it. I think we've gotten over that a little bit here. I think people have recognized that, there are still a lot of tournaments where it doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands of rands. But to your point, there's an expectation that there is prizes and prize money and elements like that. And certainly it's difficult if people have an expectation for that the whole time, as opposed to doing it for, the fun and the love and the passion side. On our careers day, the one thing I've been most appreciative about is all the speakers are, spending time with us for no payment. A lot of people make money by talking at events and doing presentations, and that's how they make their money. And it's very easy for someone to turn around and say, I expect to be paid for this because this is what I do. and but everyone bought into the vision around the fact that this is an education opportunity. It's about helping others learn about the industry, see career opportunities. And as such, they've all kind of, come to the party and got involved and don't have an expectation to be paid, which we're very appreciative about. And I think we need to start shifting that community thinking back down to the players, that it could just be an exhibition match to show the best of the best we have in Nigeria, as an example, playing PUBG Mobile, where you're showing and we're talking about how good the talent is, rather than they're just playing for some sort of prize. But I do think that there's another side of it, and maybe it's a double-edged sword, what you speak of, is the other side of it is the fact that we do have a number of tournaments taking place every week or every weekend in different esports with prize amounts is very different to what happens in traditional sports. So the example that I would use here is FIFA. FIFA is very well supported in South Africa. It has a huge following. And what you find is that, on a normal monthly basis, there's a number of competitions or tournaments that are small. They have a small number of entrants, but there are normally cash prizes available, and the cash amounts are reasonable. And some of them are based on an entry fee. So there's an entry fee, of course, and some of the money is being shared as prize money. Some of it's being used to run the operation, etc. And that's what's different to playing football, is when a kid is growing up here playing football, not every weekend can they go off to a tournament where they can actually win money or win prizes. It just doesn't happen like that. It's all for the fun and entertainment side, and there isn't the monetary side of it. But in all the FIFA tournaments that take place here, there is a prize pool or a cash pool or something along those lines, and it does give the youth an opportunity to be rewarded for something that they're becoming pretty good at. That doesn't take place in football. But I hadn't thought strongly enough around what you had said as you explained it now previously, and I do see it as something that we need to be thinking about, that it could be problematic where unless there's a money incentive, people don't want to participate. And so we need to look at a secondary level of incentivization, and maybe it's the recognition of the community side and how it kind of works. And somebody was talking the other day just around talking about careers and talking about networking and those kind of opportunities, how you build relationships and how important that is. And I think that's the kind of messaging we need to, push down to our community. Is we all want to, build a community that supports each other. We can all learn from each other and help each other along. Because when we can do that, then we can really start seeing, massive change in the industry. The example that I use with that I always hear coming up time and time again of why Silicon Valley is so successful is because when people go there, the successful entrepreneurs, the venture capitalists are happy to share their time with individuals, sit down, learn about their business, give them some advice, network for them, introduce them to others, help them with hiring, help them with financing for no expectation a lot of the time, just because they've been down that journey, they've trod on that road, and they are happy to now, give back to the community and share that. And I think if we could bring a little bit of that back into the African gaming community, that we're all trying to help each other, we're all trying to share, and people need to recognize that maybe we can just move beyond this monetary kind of expectation that's there. But as I said, it's not just driven because of what we're doing here. It's the fact that you have these massive tournaments all across the world. The international is an example with these millions and millions of dollars being spoken about, and that's where the thinking starts, getting quite extreme.
Yeah, just to crack you up, I've had a mobile game tournament where a gamer reached out and was like, the prize money is too small and it's not worth his time. He actually told me that, like, that he would not be participating because the incentive was too small for him. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm sure there will be others who will play. Let's read more comments. Sholowi says, really looking forward to the Careers Day and the panels. Thank you for all the great work and value you are doing to help grow the ecosystem. She's also said,
is from Zambia, of course, with Team G-Matrix, and she is joining us on the day as one of our speakers within the esports panel. And excited about hearing more on what they're doing, because there's some exciting things happening in Zambia. And we don't get to know about that enough, and this is the opportunity to share that.
Yes, she's a wonderful stakeholder in esports, not just in Zambia but in Africa as well. I personally will be looking forward to her panel. I would like to hear more of what she has to say. So she also said players and communities need to want to naturally grow the community before getting to the incentive phase of huge prizes. I think in this case, South Africa is excluded in this, in my opinion, because I believe the community is far beyond the rest of Africa, and I think what most, like, just to support what she said, you have to add value to the community before things like brand partnerships and brand sponsorships come into place. And I think that is also another misconception, because people approach me like, oh, we have this tournament coming up, we're looking for sponsors, we're looking for partners, and like you and I have discussed, I asked them, what value are you going to add to a potential sponsor? And that is the $1 million question that a lot of people cannot answer. I'm like, okay, you want, for example, you want an MTN to give you just a random number, $2,000. They are not just going to throw that money at you. In what way? Are you going to help them with activation? Are you going to help them with social engagement? No. So I think there's also that misconception. I hope, that is something that we're going to address also at the Esports Careers Day, because like you said, in the international world, you're hearing Samsung is throwing $5 million to this tournament. iPhone is partnering with, Epic Games to throw this money, and they are not looking at there has to be an exchange. It's a double-edged sword. No one is going to give you that money it's not just free money lying down. It's sponsorship money, it's branding money that they need to get returned. Either it's going to turn to sales for them or it's going to turn to a user for them. And a lot of people are missing that also. Is there going to be any panel for that in terms of sponsorship and branding?
So there isn't, because I do think there's been a lot of conversation around that area. There was a business of gaming forum that both of us participated in. Chawi was also part of that, which was really talking about the business of games and how to get brands involved. And you do need brands involved. You do need corporate sponsors that, as I said, are sponsoring the music and movie industry and the sports industry to start shifting budget and supporting what we're doing. But there are a number of things we need to have set up correctly in order to give a return, as you're mentioning now, to those sponsors. So a great example is something that Barry Luzada, who is the founder of Metal State, and we've partnered with on a number of opportunities. Something that he's always said that's so important is that he is often disappointed that the participants in his tournaments, the players themselves, aren't retweeting, social posting, viewing themselves. And he says every one of those likes is collateral. He says every time you do that, every time you come on board, sharing it with your friends, sharing with your family, come watch me, I'm playing in this tournament, and amplifying what we're doing the same way we all try and amplify what we're doing is very important. And I think that's another, message that we need to push down to the playing community around how important they are in really helping to grow the industry, instead of relying on all of us, the organizers, the entrepreneurs that are developing the industry, for them to recognize what their role is and how they can help. And as we get more and more of those individuals supporting and following and tweeting and supporting those brands that are involved, it'll make it a lot easier for us to really go out to corporates and show them what that return is. Because for a lot of the opportunities we speak of now, we can't show a reasonable return compared to where those brands would be spending their marketing or sponsorship money right now. It's more around us trying to convince them to come into something new because it's going to be massive, and you want to be a leader in that space, and you want to be innovative, and you want to help create the opportunity, rather than what is the direct return that those brands can get. And I think a lot more of the industry needs to do things for the love and passion side and see where it goes. And another example is, on our Africa Games and Esports Careers Day, we don't have outside sponsors that we went to, other brands that we brought on board. The sponsors are ourselves as Big Five Games, and our partner is Rage Expo. They're joining us, but they're not funding this. We fund it ourselves. We do all the kind of work that's necessary. And the reason why we didn't go to any brands right now, even though we think we have a great event that brands would want to be involved in, is we just don't know how it's going to work out right now. It's the first time we're doing something digital and virtual. We did it physical last year, so we obviously had that kind of experience. And if we were doing another physical event, I know what would be involved. I know what the brand return would be. And so for us, it was really about the fact of saying, let's do this by ourselves. And then, if it works and if it's successful and we can show the return, then brands will happily want to get involved, and we will feel much better that we've got a valuable asset for them to be involved with, and there's a like for like kind of return. We're not, the industry is not about charity. Brands don't just give money around because they have charitable initiatives and social initiatives, and they might want to sponsor some gaming opportunities, but really on the business front, they're looking for a return, they're looking for viewership, they're looking for sales of their product. And we need to be thinking a lot more around how do we fulfill that brand kind of desire of why brands are getting involved and into the industry. And that's why a lot of the work we do as Big Five Games is trying to talk to the non-endemic brands, because the endemic brands, the telcos, the tech companies, the equipment providers, they do see a return and they know why they're there right now. The other side is trying to bring those other brands. And those brands, by the way, are incredibly active globally. They're just not active on the continent enough. We talk about Coca-Cola, of course, Nissan, MasterCard. There's all these brands that are involved with League of Legends and the Overwatch League and all these massive global properties, and they really are supporting and sponsoring. I saw an amazing thing that DHL had done, and DHL was a sponsor of some of the ESL events and come on board. And a case study that I'd seen some time back, they're not the most obvious sponsor for me to get involved in esports, but actually when you saw how they were involved in esports and they helped ESL move their events and their lands across different territories the same way they move Formula One. They were doing events and promotions within the stadium. So when people were there watching these esports events, they had something called the DHL drop, and it was a delivery to a fan in the middle of the esports tournament with the whole camera focused on and driving home their delivery and their kind of brand. So I think, those are important ways that brands can, get involved. But, to the original point is we need to, as I say, build out the opportunity first and foremost, make sure that it's viable, make sure there's a return coming out of it, show brands that, and then work out how do we scale that once that's working. And I think that the opportunity for us really on the continent is the collaboration across the continent working together, because our individual countries, the numbers don't warrant the investment we're looking for. But when we do something cross Africa, so we bring a number of countries together, we've got the numbers, we've got the viewership, there's more than 1 billion people on the continent. We're a serious continent when we work together. And I find that in Africa, we can work together much easier than many other countries or regions work together. There's just something about the spirit in Africa that allows us to do that. And where I saw it more than anything else was the World Cup. You go back to a sports event and football, the World Cup that took place in 2010 here in South Africa. And the thing that amazed me was the fact that as African teams were getting knocked out, Africans were there to support the next team. So if I'm back in South Africa and South Africa go out, I'm backing Nigeria. Whereas if you're an England fan and you're out of the World Cup, you're not backing any other team. Don't now say I'm backing Italy or France has got my vote or anything like that. But I found that we were all backing teams that were just African teams. We're happy to support the African teams. I think the same goes for the Olympics. The fact that Kenya does so well in the marathon running and those kind of things, I take some, pride of that coming from the continent, that we're winning and we're doing things. And I just don't think you get that in many other continents. I think particularly in Africa, it's something that's quite unique, and we're happy to support other countries and sports people from other countries. And that should relate to gaming and esports over time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that 200%. Game Camp City said positive ecosystem attitude, and he was making fun of me about the player who said he was not going to participate. He also said, yes, education is very important for pro gamers for understanding the business model in the esports industry and their value. He also went on to say South Africa and Algeria are the biggest community for PC gamers in Africa. When you spoke about, the players not retweeting, I was expecting someone to comment, and he did not disappoint me. Lagos Esports. He said, volume on the loudest. The gamers are the ones killing the work of the organizers. Zero value added. We've had this conversation on and on and on, where you tell them, even if you're not tweeting about the tournament or the event, tweet about your participation, engagement. Say, okay, Team Big Five is going against Team Rage now, and can you guess the scores? Let it be engaging. But once again, part of, I don't know, I think the word is entitlement, because you already said this is the price when they're like, okay, fine, you've done all the work, we don't have to do anything. So that's also another misconception. He also said, even though Fnatic shares posts on their page, Fex and Harry, hashtag, still do the same personally on social media. So
I think that's a very important points that are coming through there. And I also just think that from our side, we certainly don't want to alienate the players in the gaming community and say you're not doing enough and, you need to be doing more. So it's a very careful balance that we need to have on that. Very important. But I do think that we need the players, to understand that we are part of an ecosystem. We need everyone doing their part and pulling together. And maybe also us as the organizers, as the entrepreneurs across the continent that are trying to build the industry, maybe we can think more around this collaboration and think out the box. So wouldn't it be great if someone entering your competition, as an example, was featured in a small profile on our careers day? So maybe that's the incentive, that there's no money involved, but we're going to make you famous. We're going to mention you on the Afro Gamer website. We're going to include you in a careers day thing or something that's happening at RAID or some, Africa kind of event. We'll talk around the top up and coming players. And if you make it with a certain rating, we're going to show you, and we're going to highlight you. We're going to push your social profiles. And maybe people will be thinking about the other elements besides the money and the fact that we can make individuals famous. We can make on the continent, and that's what we need for the stars to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. That is really thinking outside the box. I didn't even think about it that way, but that would be nice. Game Camp Cities said, yes, the DHL case study is hectic in sponsorship deal. Okay, and for all who are just joining us, or you've been with us, we are speaking about Africa Games and Esports Career Day, and it is coming up November 6th all the way to the 8th, and you can get your tickets at africagamescareers.com.
If I should just clarify that we are on the 6th of November as far as our Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. Thank you for bringing up the site there so everyone can see the URL and go grab the free tickets, see the schedule, and all the speaker profiles and the amazing lineup of speakers. But the actual Rage event is then running on the 7th and 8th itself. So there's a full 3-day free opportunity to engage with amazing gaming and esports content, because Rage is also free. There is no cost for it, whereas traditionally they would have had a cost for that. So yeah, there's a great full day of various panel sessions, presentations, unpacking the ecosystem, looking at all job opportunities and career opportunities within that. We start at 9:30 in the morning. We're running until 4 o'clock. It will be broadcast on the Rage channels. We will share a little bit later on our site and in social media the exact URLs for the social sites to go watch it, but both on YouTube, Twitch, it will be available and people can engage. We will be able to take questions and comments. And what we're hoping to do, just as I've mentioned again on the day, is really educate the market on various career opportunities in the industry, helping a number of parents see it as a viable career opportunity, answering some questions for the youth and exciting and inspiring them, and capturing this content again so that it can be reused after the event in various formats to share some of the pearls of wisdom I'm hoping on the day. I know on the day we're going to be getting from all the incredible speakers such as yourself, and some of the people asking the questions as well today. I did see Kwezi there, and Kofi from Africa Game, Camp Cities, and also Chalwe. We've got these amazing speakers. They'll all be sharing their views, and I know that we can make a tangible difference to a lot of people in getting access to this information that typically isn't spoken about. I think that's the reason why we wanted to do it in the first place as Big Five Games, is we were looking at the industry and saying, how do we build this industry? And education, career development is the number one platform for us that we decided to focus on. So that's our investment back into the industry. That's where we can do a social charitable initiative where we're not expecting money back on that side of things. What we're trying to do is really just play our part and start putting in place some foundational elements that'll help grow our industry over time. And this event is one, and we would do this again next year, but there might be ways of doing smaller focused career day opportunities with some of the partners that we have on the continent, and maybe just focus on specific areas or specific things within a country, and to see how we can do that.
All right, thank you very much for that. Let me just read this last comment. Game Camp Cities, thank you, Kofi, for joining us. He said we need to fix that in terms of the disconnect between tournament events organizers and the gamers. He says he agrees with Lagos Esports Forum. So that is all the time we have. Thank you very much, Kevin, for taking time out to speak to us. If anyone wants to connect with you, how can they go ahead and do that?
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. If people want to follow me, it's at kmeltzer on Twitter. It's Kevin at big5games.com if anyone wants to mail us. We've got contact details also on the site, the africagamescareers.com site, and people can engage with us there. And we're open and available to work with the community, engage with everyone, and try and get everyone to work together. So it was really appreciative for you to focus on the day for us, on the event, and include us in this. I see Kwesi has another
comment.
comment.
Yes, so we'll close with his comment. He says the culture of collaboration and cross promotion in Africa esports ecosystem is key to growth. I totally agree with you on that. To all our viewers and listeners, thank you very much for taking time out. You can go ahead and follow us on all our other social media platforms to get information. Even if you want to get more details on the event, the games, the Africa Games and Esports Careers Day, you can also get more information too on the Afro Gamer via our website. You can also, follow us on our tweets just to get more information, and you can send us a message if you're trying to get in touch with Big Five or Kevin. You can also send us a message and say, "Hey, I would like to connect with Kevin," and we'll go ahead and connect you. So you can follow us on social media platforms: Instagram, the Afro Gamer; on Twitter, the Afro Gamer _, and on Facebook, the official Afro Gamer. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.